us in the right place. Good evening, one and all. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Sometimes we do get our Australian friends in. This week, I haven't got my co-host again. He's disappeared off the face of the planet. I have no idea where he is. I've tried to phone him. No job. He was out last night though, so he could be a bit steamy. But this week again, we have Al back on, or Whiskey Straight Al as he's known. There's Amanda in, there's Liam in, Ugly Truth, Budgie Burger. Welcome one and all. And we're just going to continue on from where we started off last week, or finished off last week, sorry, apologies. So without further ado, there's 42 in, even better. Without further ado, Whiskey Straight Al, how's it going, brother?
Not too bad, and thanks for having me on again. Hello, everyone. It's great to be back, and thanks for all the positive feedback last week. I had a really good time, and hopefully Jack's, he's not too bad. It must have been a quite heavy night if he's still suffering at this stage, you know.
Well, he still may turn up.
Well, hopefully he will. But sure, we've all been there, you know.
So I see the Royal YouTube royalty in the house, Scott's Armour. 42, Nathan Skywalker. A few good names on Liam's on the sea. So, right, I was to ask you, there's the funniest moments that you've had in the police service.
All right, well,
I just sit back and relax. And
there's been a couple. Well, I'll go back to my days in the Met. As I explained last week, whenever you do police college and then you come out, there's a big shock to the system because it's totally different on the ground. And then you do 10 weeks street duties, 5 weeks with a tutor constable, and then another 5 weeks with one of the other noobs, and with the tutors in the background before you go on to your team. And I remember the first time I went out with my tutor. There's a wee guy called Dan. They called him 2-Amp, you know, because he had a short fuse, and he was basically for us to doing this, and he didn't want to do it. And as we walked out of the station, he's like, "Look up, look at all the names in case it all goes tits up. I don't fucking want to be here, so keep your wits about you." But anyway, so we went. I remember we were going down. It was Earls Court Road, and I'm not sure if a lot of people will know this. There's an offence called tom carding. It's basically putting the prostitute cards up in the phone boxes.
Right.
About this in Hendon, and we were walking down the street, and this guy comes in with his big bag, and he starts sticking stuff up. And he says to me, "Go and arrest him." And I'm like, "What for?" He says, "Tom carding." And I'm like, "What the hell's that?" "Just do it." So I opened the door, and it was this big, tall fella. Turns out he was an American. Turns around, pushes me, takes off down one of the side streets. Now, this was before all it was like this, and it was fit. So I took off after him, and we eventually caught him. I'll not tell you what happened in between because it's not, well, for YouTube standards. I'll always remember his solicitor saying to me when we went and did the disclosure part was, he can't believe you caught him, you know, because he was throwing off his coat and he had trainers on and I had the body armor on, all the stuff. We eventually caught him, you know. But the actual first arrest, which I thought was really, really funny, it was in Kensington Town Hall. We were called to a dispute there. Some guy had done something to his house, something to do with a fire, and he was looking for a new accommodation, and he wasn't happy. And he was trying to stab the housing manager with a pencil and other implements. So we got there and we got him sorted out. And he heard my accent. And the guy was from over our part of the world as well. And he turned around and called me a Protestant racist bastard. To which I replied, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, which didn't really go down well with him. And he says, which 2? And I says, work it out for yourself. You know, stuff like that. It was like you could go over there and people would talk, and then when they hear your accent, if they're from over here, they're like, I'm not talking to you anymore. You know, but things like that. It was like I had to go from Northern Ireland to London to find out that it was a Protestant racist bastard. You know, I just thought, God, this is hilarious. You know,
It's a very niche group of people, you know. There's
and
not that many.
it was just like I actually phoned the missus something. I says, you'll never guess what I just got called today. But that was probably one of the nicest things he ever got called in all the times of arresting people.
All the stories I get from the mate, he's still serving over in the Waterside, and some of the things he tells me is, you couldn't make this stuff up. Like, it's like, what? He did what? Yeah, he came flying out of the house buck naked.
Oh, wow. And there was another one too. Like this was when I was on the team and had quite a bit of experience. There was this big burly black guy, and he was wanted for GBH on his girlfriend in a different borough, but he was staying at a bedsit in Kensington. So we went round to lift him, but he wasn't there. But we told him, you know, if he comes back, give us a call. So 10 minutes later, we got the call. I went, and my mate went round. And thankfully, we were in the van, you know, the cell van. And he was a big lump, right enough. He would have been a handful, but he had a few drugs on board and he was a bit drowsy. And we had him handcuffed. And we're taking him out, and he's like, and I'm like, come on, you can go a bit faster. And he's like, I can't, the handcuffs are too tight. And I was like, without thinking, I says, they're not around your ankles. And he says, you racist bastard, we're past those days. You know, it was like, how the fuck are handcuffs around your hands making you walk slow? You know, it just shows you can make things, you can say things, and then like that. See if that was now. Fuck me. You've got all the papers. And
as I say, the mate there, the things he tells, the reports he has to fill in. Some, you know, they arrest somebody, and the boy goes, "Oh, you put me down heavy," and I'm making a formal complaint, and it goes through some police service thing now, and he goes, "You came at me with a samurai sword. What do you expect me to do?" You know?
no, I see there's a case there. Where was it only? I didn't watch the video, but I saw the headline of a case in America somewhere where this guy wanted suicide by cop, and he pulled the gun on them. The cop shot him, but he didn't die, and now they're fucking suing him. He's suing the cops for wounding. You couldn't make it up.
Yeah. There's news reports coming from these homeless streets, well, they're actually just down alleyways and down in Dublin, and they're taking over alleyways and they're turning them into like tent cities, like something you would see in America. And they were coming out with poles at the locals, and the locals went down that evening to shift them all out. But the mainstream media never actually report on the actual facts. The actual fact that the Gardaí had to go in and arrest the boy, and what he had with him was a samurai sword.
That's right, I saw that.
3 foot long samurai sword.
Well, no, it's always one-sided when it comes to these things. It's you get the actual story of what happens at the end, but not what happens at the start and why it went to that situation, how it escalated to there. But everything else beforehand is like it's as if it didn't happen.
Yes.
This is what's wrong with the mainstream media. It's what's wrong with media in general. The mainstream media aren't what the media should be anymore. They're just PR wing of the government. They're just propaganda. Because you look at the mainstream media, they're funded by the government, they're funded by big pharma, they're funded by Bill Gates and the like. So they have to
Yeah.
they march to the beat of their drum.
No,
There's no
but
moral.
I don't know if you felt like I called Maya Tusi.
I do.
Have you watched the stuff today on your man?
I,
Margaret Thatcher calling him
that's
out.
right.
Who
Maybe
else?
maybe you should read it.
And then what was he saying about immigration? 20 years ago, there was no immigration whatsoever should be in Britain. Kick them all out. Caught on giving an interview saying this, saying it all in front of him. And next minute he's arguing with a woman on, was it Newsnight or something she was on? She used to be an MEP, blonde-haired lady. And he basically nearly assaulted her. And then he chased her around the studio after the filming had ended. She had to be
Why?
put-
That's yep. I saw that where he was like misogynist and bullying and stuff like that. It's pretty rich coming from him, given what he saxed up and caused. Well, we know we went to war on the lie when it came to the weapons of mass destruction. It was the web of mass deception,
Yeah,
basically. And yet and all, he still has the gall to come out and say things about other people and not take any responsibility for his part in basically a bloody genocide,
yes.
It's the man should be in jail.
Well, when you listen to the Bitneck talk about it, what was the first one? A million dead. In an illegal war that should never have happened. And it was nothing to do with regimes or anything else. It was to do with oil. And where was them WMDs? We're still looking for them.
Aye, that's it. There's
Then
more.
you have footage. You have the
Right.
footage. Go ahead.
When my dog was still alive, there was more WMDs in the back garden than there was in Iraq. I
And
don't
saying
know.
that we're living in Northern Ireland, there are places that still stock weapons buried under the ground.
Oh, aye. And God knows how many of them either.
Um,
They're still finding them quite regularly. And of the ones that they do find, you're probably hearing only a fraction of it.
There's the mate. Before he was a cop, he was an electrician. And they were asked to go into, somebody had bought a property that had been sitting for years empty. And they bought the property and they had they wanted the electrics done because they were too old. And having another couple of sparks had to go in and rewire this place from top to bottom. And they went up into the attic to start pulling up through the light roses and stuff. And what was under it, wrapped in a blanket? It's an AK and two Browning 9mm and ammunition and stuff. And then he had to get onto the phone to the boss and say, "Look, this stuff's here. What do I do?" He said, "Just call the police."
Well,
They couldn't go on. They couldn't go back on site for 3 days until the police had swept that whole place.
that's right. They
So-
obviously had to do that to see if there was any more and see if there was any, booby traps to stop you from picking them up. But
Yeah.
you think back all over the Troubles, right? Most people who did things like that were complicit, but some weren't because they would just come to tell you, you have to store that, and that's it. If you don't, bang, And, if there's going to be something done in a certain area, you make sure you keep your doors open so we can get through the front door to the back door. So we don't have to run around houses, we can go through them. It was just the thugs ruled the estates and certain places. And, even if you weren't complicit in it, you just had to comply because there would be consequences otherwise.
Well, there was two fellas I grew up with in Coleraine years ago. Schooled, secondary school, His father was a member of a certain organisation on the Protestant side of things, and they decided they were going to make a bomb, and they're going to plant this bomb somewhere. And they sat in the car, and the guy that was supposedly wiring this thing touched the wrong wire and blew all four of them to bits. The other mate, when he was a baby, his mother had been arrested because she had on, you know, the old Silver Cross prams,
Oh, yes.
big sponge, the big bounty ones, and she had him laying on top of 4 9mm shooters, revolvers and stuff, taking them across to somebody else's house, and she got lifted for it. Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy times when you think back at it, and this is how they played on it sometimes. The police and the army, they're stopping somebody with a pram and there's a baby in it. What the fuck are you doing? But they don't realise that this is one of the ploys that they use to carry arms and stuff, It's just like, sometimes when you see the police wrestling with somebody in a wheelchair, there's fuck all wrong with them. They're only in a wheelchair for under a guise of doing something like that, It's crazy. Like, I remember one of my first memories as a child is my mum and dad were coming and picking me up at night. I was only about 4 or 5, and carrying me out the door, and there was a car right outside our house with the doors and all open, and there was supposedly a bomb in it, and the police and the army were running about clearing the street, and it's just like, it's still a vivid memory, even though it's like me, well, my 52 now, coming 53, 47 years ago.
Oh, what year were you born?
70.
Oh, you're the same age as my sister then. I'm 71. Maybe a year younger than
you. It's when you think about it, you grew up through it all and you thought it was bloody normal. Like, I heard the Warren Point bombs going off, where the soldiers were killed. I heard both of them going off. I've heard other bombs going off, and you can remember where you were. And like, my cousin was blown up around the corner from where I live. And that's just, people don't understand what it was like unless you were here growing up through it,
Yeah, well, there's a perfect example in the chat there. Our good friend 42, he grew up in East Belfast. And the stories he can tell you about people disappearing and them being found in ships the next day, beaten to death. The constant booms going off when he was a child.
That's right.
And you used to say, it was quarry work or something. It wasn't quarry work.
Yeah.
It was the streets going up, some of the stories he tells is fascinating, gruesome, but fascinating. But I remember the Korean bomb going off as a child. We were walking down the town, and my mum, I was walking age, the sister was walking age, and the brother was in the buggy. And I was just toddling along behind, and next minute this almighty boom went off, and I landed in the arse. It was half a mile away, but then 20 odd years later, we were out for a pint one night in a place called Brooks Wine Bar. It's not the only one who knocked it down. And almost maybe 11 o'clock at night, and it was, a cop comes running out the place, he says, get out. He says, get down into the park, because it led down into this play park. He says, get down into the park. And we were down in the park, so we took pints and all of this, the typical Northern Irish do, take my fucking pint with me, man.
Yeah.
The next minute, boom, it's on me, and you could feel it through your body.
Yeah.
And the next day, we woke up and the news, it was all over the news, and they showed this massive crater in the middle of the Korean. The engine had gone from Korean Town Centre. I don't know if you know Korean.
I do.
Where the town hall is. The engine went over the town hall, over the library, and then ended up in JKC's car park, the BMW dealer. The engine landed in the wee car park at the side of the place. Now, there must have been some force. And then it comes out then that the van had been stopped in Ballymoney and searched, and it was completely empty. Or was it Ballyrasheen? But between there and it getting into the middle of the town, that had been packed with £500 worth of
Jesus.
fertilizer, you know.
It's crazy. Touching on that, I don't think I said last week. I remember, or maybe I did. I can't remember. Going into, we got a call to Tesco. I think it's the Warwick Road there in Kensington, and we were the only crew left. And it was this guy who had stolen 2 bottles of body wash shampoo, you know, and it only came to about £1.70 or 60 or something like that. And they wanted us to arrest him, and I'm like, oh, I'm not fucking arresting somebody for that, you know. I nearly paid myself and let him go. And he was a wee French lad, and he had one of those like army satchels over his, you know, like sometimes you would have used it as a school bag back in the day in the 70s and 80s. And I was like, there's no way I'm arrested. I says, look, mate, have you got some money? Pay for it. So he fucking pulled out a shitload of money, you know. So he paid for it, and we walked him out. And it was one of the lessons I learned, to always search somebody. But I was nice to him, and he was nice, and he sort of went on to say that he was in the French Foreign Legion, and he didn't really. Well, I can relate, having served in the police and all that, and the way you get treated. He'd got injured and got sort of set by the wayside. So we never thought anything more of it. We let him go on his way. The next set of shifts, the same guy had been stopped in Fulham, the next borough across, and they searched him, and in the bag there was a Uzi, fully loaded with magazines. So thank God it was nice to him.
Because what is it? The London police, it's only the army guys have the bulletproof vests. The other police, the stab-proof vest they have.
Yeah.
Over here, it's completely different. It's always bulletproof.
You have the flak jackets, you know, that make you like a big turtle where you can hardly move. And
I was talking to, I'll just call him C, mate, today actually. He was saying he's been on 8 days straight for cover and stuff. And then since the Northwest is on, there's boys down policing it and things. And he says then you have to go back in to cover the city itself.
Yeah.
Things like that, yeah. And he says, I'm fucking knackered. I could do with a month off. But here, he's not poorly paid.
No, you get well paid for it, but sometimes you wonder, is it bloody worth it? Because if you look, even all the time looking back over the last 20 years, like I've been retired now for coming up before, but I still obviously keep in touch with some of my mates. The amount of marriages that have broken up because people are never at home. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It takes so much out of your life. You get rest days cancelled. You're working early, late nights, all different hours. You know, then on your rest days, you have to go to court or you get called in for something else. It's just you never know when you're going to be free.
We're going catching up in paperwork.
Aye, or being told that, you know, when you want to try to book a holiday, no, you can't get that time off. Like I remember when we were moving into the house we are now, and we had one sort of day to do the move.
Yes, he was Craig's, but he was also Met Police in London. Al was Met Police in London before he come back and joined was it the RUC when you joined it?
No, the PSNI.
The penises. I refuse to call it the penises. Even when the mate comes round, I still refer to as RUC.
Ops planning wouldn't let me have the day off.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, thank God I had a good sergeant, and he said, fuck them, I'll give you the day off myself, you know. But that's neither here nor there. I do miss the days and the old banter, you know, but you wouldn't get away with it now.
But
Some of the things, like,
as
like
as C says, he says he can't be based in his hometown because everybody knows him. And he says 30, 40 years ago, you could have been based in your hometown and nobody would have cared.
yeah,
Nowadays, everybody knows you. So they seem to be. So if you're living in Ballymena, you can be working in Belfast, or you can be working in down near Newry or somewhere like that there, and you're travelling all the time. And then, according to he has his kit bag and he takes it home with him, and he had the radio in the bag with him, and the car had followed him when he left the station. He said he seen a car, and then he looked in the mirror again. By the time he got to Limerick Valley, the car was still there. So he thought he would head up over the mountain road instead of the main line. The car was still there. So he gets onto the radio, I'll be back on it, and puts in a call sign to Korean police station and says, this car's following me. And the next minute he says, I'm going this way, I'm heading to Korean. He says, next minute these blues and twos come flying this way, and he pulled the guy in. And he was known to them. So, and that's what was following him home.
But the thing is, you've got, like, whenever I was part-time and I was working in the newspaper, you couldn't always park your car in the street. You had to go to a car park. And I remember one day, you know, going back to the car park, and I had my coat on, I had my Glock in my pocket, and my hand on the Glock, just in case. And this car came past. And it just shows you, no matter how well prepared you are, if this had been a real thing, I would have been fucked. This guy had the window down, and he just looked out at me, and he went like this out the window with his fingers.
Hmm.
You know, I wouldn't have had a chance, you know, if it had been a real gun, you know, but it was just them letting me know, we know who you are.
Yes. Well, you hear stories of that all the time, and then you do get the overzealous ones. And there was one here in the town where I'm at now, Balmoy, and he used to go into the pubs at night, and he would just mouth off and mouth off and mouth off. Instead of going in and saying nothing, or maybe going to the British Legion and having a drink, he'd go around all the pubs in the town, and all the pubs in the town are owned by certain people. They ended up knocking the crap out of that man. He ended up in hospital for weeks.
Mm.
I think eventually they had to retire him out of the police. But he thought he was Billy Big Bullets, you know.
I remember getting a call from one of the local bars one night to say that a fellow had come in, got all pissed up, and started shouting about the bar. He was going to come down to my house and shoot me. And I got a call direct from the bar to say, like, get on to your mates here. I was off duty at the time. You know, we had to get the local crew to go out and intercept, you know.
Yeah.
Because the same fellow would have done it. Well, he would have tried anyway. But people just don't realise that things like that still go on, you know.
Yeah. Well, not so much over here, but in England, when you see them, personally, I think the police has been politicised.
Oh, God, that's
you can't get into the police now if you don't have a university degree, you know. And as Matt says, you know, not unless you're 4'8" roller lesbian transgender person in a wheelchair, you're not getting into the police.
It's a bloody shame, because all these young ones coming in, they haven't a clue. They've no life experience. You know, they're used to, like, going through everything, reading a book, and everything's black and white, and they've just no common sense with them. Like, my dad had a great saying, and he always hammered it home to me, was experience teaches fools knowledge.
Yeah.
And I've always lived by that mantra myself, because
you keep talking away, because I'm going to nip. I won't wait for a second. I will be back in a second. Keep on going for a second. So,
no way. life is all about experience. When you join something new, you don't know it all. You have to listen to people with experience. And then as you listen to them and you get on and get that experience yourself, you realize that those people have been there, done it before you, and they know what they're talking about. And that's why it's always paramount to listen to people who have been there and done it, because no matter who you think you are, you can come into something with all guns blazing, with all great ideas. The people that have been there before are the ones that know it, and that you have to listen to them and learn from them. And I think that's where society has gone wrong in so many ways. You've got all these upstarts coming through with all their wonky woke agendas, and they're trying to come out of university and
Change the world.
basically tell everybody how it is. You know, I can be what I want to be. I can identify as this, that, or the other bloody thing, and that makes me it.
Did you watch the one that I posted on Twitter? And Matt had found the actual original version of your man talking about woke and Marxism and stuff.
James Lindsay.
So James Lindsay.
Aye, where he went to the European Parliament. Aye, brilliant.
And absolutely fantastic. I've shared it a couple of times and shared it in a couple of groups.
I retweeted it as well. It's just woke, basically, is socialism, Marxism.
Yeah.
I just can't get my head around how.
So you're coming from the same place as me and the likes of 42 and all. We grew up in a time when there wasn't that sort of, it wasn't heard of. You know, we had male teachers in school that were role models.
Mm-hmm.
You know, big burly men that used to teach you rugby, another guy that would teach you football, you know, or whatever. And our history teacher, as you remind me of our history teacher, he was called Mr. McVicker. And he was stern, but he was fair.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave it to you literally from the book.
Yep.
And then we'll discuss it and stuff. Now it's not. They've changed books, they've changed writings. John Davison in. You must get him a follow. John Davison's a real nice man, real good guy.
Hey, John. No, this is what like universities used to be, like back in our day.
Yes.
I never went to university. We always knew what they were like. You know, there were places where opinions, there was debates, and opinions were welcomed, and both sides debated, you know, what they thought. Now it's, if you don't fit the narrative, if you're not woke enough, you're not coming to talk, you know. And then if some universities do have the balls to bring somebody like Jordan Peterson or James Lindsay or the likes of that, then there's a whole big hoo-ha in the media, and it doesn't happen. You know, like what's the sense in that? It's like, these are the people who are Me Too, treat everybody nice, and it's the narrative. If you don't conform to the narrative, we don't want to know. We want to hear, you must hear us, but we don't have to hear you.
Yeah. It's when I was watching it, got caught up in family stuff. Well, sorry, my co-host has just sent me a message there. He's got caught up in family stuff. He may be here shortly. I'm going to close a cat out here, folks.
So I've still got a couple of cats in here. I think there's one laying on the floor behind me. One laying in the chair over there. But thankfully, they're all nice and quiet so far.
My Susie, I've had for about 15 years. I rescued her. Somebody dumped her on my doorstep. She was about this size, in the middle of your hand. Her eyes weren't even open. So me and the missus took to, what do they call it? Shirley's puppy milk and a wee syringe. At the time I worked in Tygo Healthcare, and syringes were available because I used to maintain the moles and fix the moles and stuff. So every few hours, this Shirley's puppy milk and stuff. And ever since I've taken her on, she doesn't leave my side. I literally can't get rid of her. The daughter was saying the time I was in for the time I had the brain hemorrhages,
Mhm.
I was in for 2 weeks. Tubes and all in me and things coming out of me and drains coming out the back of my skull and stuff. And the daughter and the sons would come and visit me and says, "It's great to get away from the house, Dad." I says, "Why?" Says, "That bloody cat's driving us nuts. Since you're not there, round the house, morning, noon and night.
Looking for you.
Where? So, where is it?
Like I saw a good one there the other day, which basically talks about woke and the narrative and all this fucking warped ideology. It was like why you should never argue with donkeys, and it was like the donkey came to the leopard and said, "The sky is green and the grass is blue," and the leopard says, "No, catch yourself on. That's the other way around." So they argued about it for a while, and they said, "Let's go to the king, the lion, the king of the jungle. Let's go there." And so the donkey came up to the lion and said, "The sky is green and the grass is blue." And the lion said, "Yep, you're right. Where you go?" And then the leopard came up and he says, "What did you do that for?" That's the other way around. He says, "Yes, now you go back into the jungle and shut your mouth and stay silent for 5 weeks." And he says, like why are you punishing me when I'm right and he's wrong? He says, "Well, you should have had the wit not to argue with him because you knew you were right and he was wrong. You don't argue with people like that because you can't win."
Yeah. No, you can't. There was that. I don't know if anybody's watches. What do you call that? What do you call that real posh gentleman? He's on GB News. He's an MP.
Why, Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Jacob Rees-Mogg, and he had this thing on with pink hair. Phoebe, she was called. She was the one that poured the tomato soup over. Was it a Van Gogh or something?
Yeah.
And she's going, and everybody's dying, and there's famine, and there's war, and there's this, that, and the other. I'm thinking to myself, I'd love to be interviewing that wee girl. I say, because when I was born in 1971, do you know what was in the world? Famine, war, poverty. When my mum and dad was born, what was in the world? Famine, war, poverty. It's been going for 1,000 years, and these kids are brainwashed into this crap.
There's been war since the beginning of time. There's been slavery since the beginning of time. I mean, you talk about climate change. Like I saw a good one. I can't remember the guy's name now, but he was talking about it. Somebody said to you about there's been global warming. You say, since when? Because he went right back to the Ice Age and beforehand. It's always regulated itself.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing now is manipulating the bloody statistics, and they're going from a certain time. But if you go right back, it's always self-regulating all over the years. And people just get caught up in the narrative that don't do their own research. And they're either just ignorant through not searching it up, or they do know what's going on, and they're willfully ignorant because they want to perpetuate that false narrative just to sucker people in,
Yeah.
And then you've got like experts in their field who have been doing it all their lives, and they get discounted in favor of the doomsday goblin, be Greta.
Yes. Did you ever see the spitting image one of her?
Oh Jesus!
And the map. Hot. But to my mind, that's child abuse. That child's parents are wealthy, and she has Asperger's, and she's had that drummed into her since she's a small child, and she actually believes everything she's saying.
That's right. And the reason why they did that initially when she was a child, it was like you can't really say anything against the child.
Yeah, but that's
You know,
there was
it's,
a
it's,
guy
all,
on
it's, all
YouTube.
done, it's all done by design so that you can't criticize without being called this, that, and the other. And
Did you ever see the Black Greta?
what's
There's a guy
that?
did it. The Black Greta in
No, I didn't see
America.
that.
In America, I think it was the late 70s or early 80s. You know your politician guy, and he's the doomsday, the, the, the doomsday man in America. Yeah, he jets all around the world on a private jet, telling everybody about climate change. It was
The
around
same as
his,
John Bloody Kerry.
yeah. And then this younger stood up and basically gave the same speeches as Greta Thunberg, word for word, Nick, in 1979 or 1980. And they just
Yeah.
keep on bringing it around and bringing it around. And then you have AOC, or Cortez, with the teeth. And she's
Chad
telling
Sad calls her occasional Cortez.
us, what was she? Was she a bartender or did she serve
She
coffee?
was, aye.
And then she's now in Congress, you know. And then again, you have your woman, what do you call her, word solid woman, the vice president,
Aye, cackling Kamala.
Kamala. And she's like,
Or heels up Horace or camel toe Horace.
you know,
Fuck me. She can't. Did you hear the she comes out with? Whoa.
she got 2% of the vote in the primaries, and yet she still ends up VP of America. There's
That's
something
it.
seriously fucked up with the system. Like,
Big tick box.
uh,
So it was a big tick box. She only got that because of, well, you know why.
if you go to Tony Heller's channel on YouTube, I don't know if you follow him or not, but he's one of these climate guys, and he's the opposite of these people. He shows the graphs and the figures and the actual facts and stats on paper. Like, you know, the world's not burning.
Yeah.
You know, if the world was to drop 2 degrees, crops would fail. You know, all factual information that he can show to you and prove to you. You know, but he's silenced. But these people are always pushed forward.
Sure, even the guy that founded Greenpeace is coming out and calling BS on it all. You know, and then you've got the likes of like Barack Obama and all these ones are shouting and roaring about sea levels rising, yet they're buying bloody big beach homes.
Yeah, seafront properties.
Aye. Fuck, if I thought the sea was going to be rising, I wouldn't be buying something there.
You wouldn't be buying somewhere in Port Royal.
It's just people, and then people can't see through the madness. You know, these people are just saying something and getting away with it, and people are just too fucking stupid not to see through the BS and the lies and the propaganda. It's mind-boggling.
It's like another thing there that we can't talk about. Oh, look who's in. Look, the man himself. So, it's like I was talking about.
Back when I was young, I drop it on CND.
But there's times me and Jack were talking about it. There's certain things you can't talk about on YouTube. You know, there's certain things. Injectables, and it's the same. They fill people's heads full of it, and there's propaganda that we're all going to die, we're all going to burn. We've got 7 years to live if we all don't switch to electric. And then it turns out there that the windmills are made from carbon fibre. The wind turbines are made from carbon fibre, which can't be recycled, so the blades have to be buried. The solar panels only last a certain so many years, and they can't be recycled, so they have to be buried. So how's that saving the planet?
It's all to make money. Everything. If you look at everything, it's all to make money for big tech, big pharma, the military-industrial complex. and the like, and then it's all being laundered back, and the people that allow it are the governments who are getting the backhanders to let it all happen. You know, like as you say about the pricks who allowed the prick. You know, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what they're doing all along, and it's just fucking mind-boggling. Look at all the truth that is coming out now that they're still trying to cover up.
Yeah.
And
now Australia's now paying compensation to people that were damaged.
Yeah.
Government compensation, not the actual people that made the stuff. The government are paying, so the Australian taxpayer is paying for compensation for their own.
that's what we were having. The fucking dropped it like the AZ one. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, here, there's Ugly Truth brings up a great one. I've seen this. There was a bus station. I can't remember where the bus station was, but it was in England somewhere, and they had massive diesel generators charging the electric buses. You couldn't make that shit up.
But have you seen the where the fuck was it? The Congo, where they've got all these cobalt mines, where they're like thousands of children and even adults, you know, just in their flip flops and their shorts, you know,
Picking
chipping
stuff out.
away like up to 16 hours a day with all the gunmen around them, just to get this for electric vehicles, you know, to make lithium batteries. And that's like fucking child abuse.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who cares? Because the right people are making the money.
Yes. And the upper class can drive around in their electric vehicles and think they're saving the planet. It's like, what's America doing now? America with the gas cookers, gas stoves. They're trying to take people.
Then again, is how do you dispose of the batteries?
You can't.
Aye. And then, like, I know of a few people who are in forward planning in certain high positions. See if one of them goes on fire, try to put the bugger out.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen them videos. That's intense. But then, what was it Iran was saying? The biggest concentrate of cobalt is in Afghanistan. And when America pulled out of Afghanistan, who moved in? The Red Army, the Chinese. Where are all these batteries made? China, you know?
Yeah.
And there's guys there predicting that America won't be a superpower in the next couple of years. It'll be China.
I'm sure you have to see. You look at the infrastructure in China, the big cities, the high-speed rail, you know, the easiness to get about. And you look at America, it's still like back in the old days of the West when they were building the bloody railways. Some of them have hardly upgraded since then.
But there was a thing on there, and a guy put it up on YouTube, and it was the Chinese bioscanners. You know this social credit system?
Oh, aye.
And you have your card, or there was a place, I think it was Sweden, had 3,000 staff, and they had put chips in them. They volunteered to get these chips in them, you know, because they're all brainwashed shape. So when they go for a coffee, they don't put money into the machine. They just scan their wrist, and a coffee comes out. If they want a sandwich, they scan the wrist, and the sandwich comes out. And then you have somebody had caught it on film in London, and these guys erecting these 2 pillars for people to walk through in London. And what is it? It's the same fucking scanners.
That's right. But this is where it's all leading to. And people think, God, this is all going to be so handy. It's so convenient, you know, less faffing about. But at the end of the day, convenience means control.
Yes.
But it really boils down to it. You know, it's the same with this central bank digital currency. You know, what's going to be there? It's going to be real-time tracking. You know, if you pay with something with credit card, it maybe takes a couple of days to go through. If you're going through this central bank digital currency, it's going to be there and then. And if they think like, well, you're in this place and you're not allowed to be in that place because you've been there too many times in the last month, well, no, you can't buy that thing. You've spent too much on fuel already, or you've
Yeah.
used too much electricity. No, we're not going to let you buy it. And then at the end of the day, if you speak out against the system,
You cut your money.
we'll just cut your money. And then there's another element of it too, whereas it's also been broached that if you've got a certain amount of money, you have to spend a certain amount every month. And if you don't spend it, the government takes it.
Yeah.
Say you've got to spend £2,000 a month, you spend £1,000, the government takes the other grand. And people don't realise that they're going down this fucking slippery slope where it's going to be total bloody control unless people wake up and fight back against it.
Yeah. Well, I've said this on numerous occasions in different chats, and I'm convinced of it. It's just my own personal opinion, but I'm convinced of it. Since the late 40s, the early 50s, and especially in America when technology was taken off in the 50s and stuff, TVs came out, and you seen the advertisements in America, the old black and white advertisements, where nobody was sitting around the table anymore. They had a tray, and the whole family was sitting there eating their dinner.
Yep.
In a box, and then you have football for the guys, rugby, and all these different Formula One. And look at the cars go by. Look at the car. Yeah, it's entertaining. It's fun, but there's something else more important. There's your man. I watched today on the birth rates around the world, and the decline of birth rates. He's an educated man. He was sort of explaining how society, the world's population in 40, 50 years' time will be so depleted. There'll be more people in care homes than there are in maternity wards. And there's my local hospital up the road there, Coleraine, which serves a massive community. Coleraine, Portrush, Portstewart, Ballycastle, all around here and stuff. Closing the maternity ward.
Yeah.
So now if you're pregnant in Coleraine or Ballymoney or Bushmills or anywhere like that there, you'll either have to go to Antrim or Eltnagelvin.
Yeah, sure. Daisy Hill, which would be most local to me. Well, in Downpatrick, they closed the A&E, minor injuries unit, and fucking Daisy Hill have closed pretty much A&E and elective surgery. And now you'll end up in fucking Craigavon area hospital if things go tits up.
Yeah. Well,
it's just
even now,
services.
Even now, I got taken into hospital, and it wasn't even a Saturday or a Friday. I think it was a Thursday night, and they didn't have a bed for me on the ward. I was in the A&E, and there was wires coming out of me, and strips coming out of me, and this, that, and the other. And I was, the way an A&E is, there's noise all the time and stuff. But when my mum worked in the hospital, we used to walk through the A&E to go and walk her down home. And all the nurses knew us by name. That's Violet's boys, blah, blah, blah. And there was never a bad word said. I'm laying in this place on a Thursday night, and all I'm hearing is foreign languages, effing and blinding. The police having to come in and tell the guy if he didn't shut up, he wasn't getting treated, and they were just going to put him in the cell instead. And he could shout all he wants, I'm there. And that's only in the space of 35 years. Yeah. It's not a big space of time now.
Like, no, it's not. There's times that I wondered, especially at the weekend shifts, you wondered whether you worked in a bloody police station or A&E because you were never out of it, even as a police officer. It was, and this is the other thing about, you're talking about the TV, it was all, everybody thinking the TV was a great thing, but you think about it now, especially the way things are going with Disney and Netflix and all this shit, trying to indoctrinate people into a certain way. And the news as well. And people seem to take it on board. and think it's the be all and end all. And the news wouldn't lie to you. But if you look back over the times, look at Operation Mockingbird, which was going back to the 60s with the CIA, where they were infiltrating the media so that they could get their propaganda, their spinning things put out, and that's, oh,
Tommy Robinson coming to Northern Ireland. I never heard Pablo, so I wouldn't know.
if he does, he'll end up the same way as Paul Golding and Jada.
Yes.
He'll be victimized and arrested and brought up on trumped up charges because they don't like what he has to say. Love him or loathe him, he doesn't, in my opinion, put out any toxic. He just tells the bloody truth, and they don't like the truth.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, he's like, he exposed that tool from Panorama. They're all out to get him, and it's just, he's a scapegoat.
But I think it's who he's associated with and who's paying his bills. And apparently he was bankrupt, and he owed £2 million. Yet he was then filming himself living in a villa in Spain. Now, if you're bankrupt, how can you afford a villa in Spain?
Well, you'd have to ask Jordan that, hey. She fucking fighted for bankruptcy over Jim from a bloody villa.
She seems to just, that woman could fall in fucking pure dog shit and come out smelling fucking panache,
That's right. It's mental, so it is. But it's all, as I say about that Operation Mockingbird. You go back and probably 8 to 9 out of 10 people wouldn't even know what that is. But that was them going back in the day. Going back to before we were born, and they were manipulating the news and the media. Sure, fuck me, they're writing press releases for them and saying, this is the slant on them. You hear the familiar phrase now. People familiar with the situation, or people familiar. Fuck.
Ugly truth put in the chat there. He's still a Sturge now, bacon. Fucking motorhome.
Oh, you know what? I will love the day when that silly numpty party gets put to bed for good, and people up there need to go to jail. Fucking despise them.
But there was it Maya Tusi was covering it, and he actually started apologising for covering it because there was that many things coming out about them. But it was like, one's been done for this, one's been done for that, one's been done for sexually grooming a 14-year-old boy, and you're saying these people are running a country, and they're all a bunch of fucking deviants.
That's right, and the missing money and the ship deals that all went awry. And you know what? I think the only reason why the Wicked Witch of the North hasn't been lifted yet is because they've lifted the husband, they've lifted the treasurer, they're going through all the books and documents to get as much evidence as they can before they go for her.
Yeah. That woman there should be at the Hague.
Oh, she's a nasty little fucker.
Unbelievable poison little one.
As I have said on occasion, she is probably the greatest threat to the Union since some we Austria did with a small moustache.
Well, you still have that. There's Sensen in the chat there. Even Sensen, brother. Another great channel to follow. There's Hoax in. But she is literally poison. But there's your man Dreyfus. Is it Dreyfus or
Drakeford. Drakeford.
And what's his son?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Another fucking kitty fiddler.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, How do these people get elected?
I know.
Everybody knows these things about them, and they still get elected. And then there's a boy that was kicked out of was it the Tory party, and he was diddling with kids, and now he's going to stand as an independent. He shouldn't be allowed anywhere near politics.
Once you get done for something like that, you shouldn't be allowed to stand for public office again. You shouldn't even be allowed to be employed again.
Well, here's a question for you. It comes out today, and it was Maya Tussey and a couple of other channels were reported on it. I think it was Michael Havers reported on it. If Labour get in, they want to bring in laws whereby the immigrant population, people from Europe that have moved here and stuff, and were given granted to leave or to live here, the vote. They also want to give the vote to 16-year-old kids. Would you give a vote to a 16-year-old kid that's been brought up through a communist education system?
Oh, hell no. If anything, the voting age should be raised. But I go back there, and I hope Matty's still in here, the Angry Britain Act. I saw one of his tweets earlier on, and that's just straight out of the Marxist rulebook. You know,
Yes.
The people that you let into the country and you tell them we look after you, obviously they're going to vote for you. That's why you want them to. The 16-year-olds that you've brought up through a system of indoctrination, not education, they'll vote for you as well.
Yeah.
You know, is it any wonder? You know, they think they're going to be living, everything's going to be great. But
Did you get your voting registration card through? Voter card.
I'm not sure. The wife looks after all that. But
Read the very bottom line on who can vote or what ID you can show to vote.
I'm not sure. I think we maybe did. But do you know what the funny thing was? We got all the flyers through. You know, it's all the flyers through from all the different parties, and every one of them is fucked up. You know, and it's like it just shows that some people don't follow me on social media. Every one of them were the wife's name, apart from Sinn Féin, which was my name.
Yes.
She took great joy in coming to tell me, look, there you go.
And well, apparently Sinn Féin don't canvass up around here because all we've had is the Ulster Unionist Party, the DUP, the TUV, and Alliance.
I haven't had any canvassers here in, I think, in about 5 years. I think the only one I had in those times was the
They just
SDLP.
they just stick a leaflet through your door. They don't actually come and knock the door and talk to you and tell them what you're going to do. Because if they did come to the door, I'd be saying, why is there 8 illegal migrant centres across Northern Ireland? So why is one of them in a bought-over hotel in Coleraine, 200 yards from where teenage kids go every weekend?
And there's quite a lot of them coming into Newcastle here, just 6 miles down the road from me. You can see it now, even when you're passing through on the school run, or you're just down, you know, to do a bit of shopping. The amount of immigrants coming in there is fierce. Like, I don't mind if they're legal immigrants, but illegal, they're not immigrants. They're just illegals.
They're
They're not refugees because they come over so many countries.
Yeah. Now, what a mate did say to me, he took the wife to a show. It was some superstar was playing in Belfast. So they decided they were going to make a night of it. And they went to the concert, and then they went for a meal, and then they were going back to the hotel. And they went to the hotel door, and there was these 2 big black gentlemen standing at the door. And they spoke to him, and he said he couldn't understand a word he said. But the hotel was in the university, and 42 is probably better at it than me. There's a certain place in Belfast, and it's all QU, Queen's University Belfast, and it's all the intellects and all these kids going to this university. But they're from all around the world. So where's the best place to hide illegal immigrants? In a hotel straight across the road from it, because nobody will.
Nobody bat an eyelid.
Nobody bats an eyelid.
Yeah, because it seems to be the norm.
And then you have the wee Irish woman with her camera out in a multi-story car park beside a hotel in Dublin, and they had invited all these Ukrainian refugees across. Now, Philip Dwyer done a report on it, and he went to welcome them off the plane when they landed, and they were slightly tanned for Ukrainians, and their names wouldn't have been Vlad or, it wouldn't have been Ukrainian sounding anyway.
Mhm.
And they were fleeing because they said they were over 60 years old and they didn't have to fight, so they came here as refugees. Apparently, a woman has done a report on it, and she had found out that they're getting that much money from the Irish government, according with free housing and stuff. So they're flying back to Ukraine. They're going into dealerships and they're buying fancy Mercedes motors on finance.
Yep.
Driving them back across through Europe, through France, up on the ferry and back to Ireland, and they're parking them in this multi-story car park while the Irish taxpayers paying for it.
I know, it's crazy.
It's unbelievable. You couldn't make that shit up.
But sure, isn't there? Was it Mayor Tussey that had a video out, or was it somebody else saying about one of the hotels in England? They were booting out some veterans who were there because no, it's not. It was in America. It was in America. They're booting out some veterans who were staying in a facility because the government paid more for illegal immigrants.
Yes.
So
During the lockdown now in England, during the lockdown, they actually took the homeless veterans in and put them up in travel lodges and things like that there. And as soon as the boats started coming, they put the veterans out and put the newcomers in. And then there was what was it? What was the one I was seeing? It was like a nursing college. And you know the way the nurses go to this certain college and they all have a dorm. They put the nurses out the dorm and put refugees in it.
Fuck me. This is ridiculous. I'll always say, and I would say most people who have served in the military, fire service, police service, which should be fucking police force, not service, and the like, it's not worth it because you do a great job, but you get treated like absolute shite. You don't get looked after. Like I'm still going through the bloody mill. Like, and what date is it now? 14th, the 25th of May, 8 years ago was when I got hurt. And I'm still going through the bloody mill fighting for what's right. And they're trying to bloody time me out. I'm convinced of it. They don't.
So I'll tell you what, contact me. I'll talk to you on WhatsApp and I'll put you in contact with a guy who can help you.
It's bloody ridiculous.
He's ex-military, an OBE, an MBE, and he helps veterans and policemen get what they're what they're supposed to get, through different ways.
But then I'm looking back at other things too, and I was doing like I like history and looking back at things and see how it relates to the modern day. And like there's another one when you talk about veterans and you talk about the likes of Campbell and Blair and those who should be brought up on war crimes.
Hey.
But then again, you look back to what happened there. Oh, you're back. World War II and all the things that happened there, and lots of people were taken to Nuremberg. Some were jailed, some were executed, some were exonerated. Some obviously escaped to Argentina and the likes, but there was like 1,600 of their top scientists taken to America to work for the
Mhm.
likes of NASA. You know, so there were
That
like
was
back in the day after that, the man in charge of NASA was a former fucking top German scientist. So like, where's the equality in? Uh,
but the Germans at that time had all the science.
yeah,
They had been working on this stuff for years, and then as soon as the Second World War finished, a few years later, they were drawing up plans because we had Spitfires and all, these big Rolls Royce engine things. And, next minute, this way, he's climbing into this thing with a rocket on it, like a jet, a jet fighter. I think the Americans were. I might be wrong, but I think the Americans were one of the first countries with the jet fighters, and it was invented by the Germans. You know, what else? What did they invent? What was the thing that they invented? And they used to hear them coming over London.
the V2.
The V2 rocket.
Like
Just
definitely they were well ahead of their time when it came to things like that. But the thing is, because of what they were doing, and Hitler knew what was coming, they were gearing towards that. But everybody didn't realize that what was going to happen. Yes, that's right, Bert. Operation Paperclip.
yeah.
You know,
And then who was it? What do you call that boy that was kicked out of the Tory party for speaking?
Andrew Bridgen.
Andrew Bridgen. And what was Andrew Bridgen gave an interview to Jeff thing on YouTube in London at the Lions, Trafalgar Square, and Jeff asked him what was the paperclip for, and he explained the paperclip. That was it Norwegian? Bert, I think it was Norwegian, and they wore the paperclip. I must look into that. No, I'm trying to find out. If anybody knows where the paperclip comes from, I think it's Norway. Let us know in the chat there, because I find that fascinating.
Then again, when you look at the stuff like that, and you talk about the if you think your government won't conspire against you, look at what happened. Like, was it from 42 to 72 or 52 to 72? What they did to some of the black community with Operation Tuskegee, with the syphilis.
Yes.
Went on for 40 fucking years. And they were telling these guys they had bad blood and they were experimenting on them. And they, throughout it all, or towards the end of it, they had an actual cure for it. But they kept on telling these people they were just, doing the government and the society a good thing. But they were just fucking using them. And loads of them died and passed on diseases to their families. Went on for 40 fucking years.
Yeah.
Your government is not your friend.
Well, sure, it was the British government that tried. It wasn't World War II. I think it was World War One. The hunger suppressant, so they didn't have to feed the troops as much. What was it called? Bromide.
Could have been. And then sure, didn't the Nazis have injecting their soldiers with stuff to keep them going for longer?
Ecstasy.
Getting them all hyped up.
It turned out to be ecstasy. But it made them sort of pacifist. They didn't want to fight anymore. They just want to make love,
That's it. You get going for so long and then you burn out. It's
like you asked any military man, and they all lined up for years after years after years of non-stop injections for this, non-stop injections for that, non-stop injections for the other.
Wasn't it Ronald Reagan that famously said, "What's the scariest words in the English language? We're from the government and we're here to help."
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever known the government to help anybody apart from themselves?
I think politics died in the early 70s, I think.
Yeah.
When you have Peter Shaw talking about not going into the EU and the passionate arguments that he gave. It wasn't the EU at the time, it was economic
Common
forum,
market.
common market and stuff, things like that there. And then you had the once great man himself, Enoch Powell, and look how his prediction turned out.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't make this shit up.
Nope.
Now, but Northern Ireland's always Northern Ireland has always been 40 years behind the times when it comes to what's trendy in England. It's
That's
not
right.
trendy over here. It's like what's in America goes to England. If you look at America's case at the minute with the hordes at the southern border. Look at England, the southern border, Dover, exact same. You have Joe Biden in power. Joe Biden's in power, nothing. That man can't find his own ass with both hands. And now we've got Rishi Sunak, in my opinion, this is my opinion, not British.
No.
That man has a green card in his wallet. So when he can bugger off to America, he has houses.
That's what as Joe called him, Rashid Sunak, or as I like to refer to him as Itchy Nutsack. It says, and he has no more interest in Great Britain and Northern Ireland as has fucking who, like
Stalin.
Aye.
He's dead. But no, he made.
But he's still got a statue.
True. But there's. They were talking about it the other day there. The guy asked the question, why, when your wife has more money than the actual queen, at the time this came out, his wife has more money than the queen, why would you take 140 grand a year job when you have more money than most people in Britain? You are an elite sort of 0.5% of people in Britain financially. You have properties. Go ahead.
Probably two things. The rich, the people that are like that, the more money they have, the more money they want. And when you get somebody in power on a lesser wage or salary, they're still in position to manipulate things the way they should, so it benefits them, their narrative over the people. Like give a wee contract for the central bank digital currency to your spouse's family and father-in-law, maybe, who might be controlling these things and the output of them.
Now, if you're a German, if you're a real journalist, go ahead.
The conspiracy realist.
What's the difference between a conspiracy and actual fact?
These
days, 3 months. But when somebody exposed him, there was a news reporter, and she about certain manufacturing of certain things that was going into certain people's arms. His wife has near 40% of the share of the company that was doing it. When we're putting sanctions on Russia and our heating bills are going through the fucking roof, his wife has shares in Russian oil and gas.
And Russia's still doing fine.
They're doing fine.
That's it, and it's all the rest of us that are bloody suffering. That's a good way of putting it. A Trojan horse, yep. Mm-hmm. Well, a Trojan Shetland pony.
Field Marshal's in. Field Marshal and her cannibal chickens. Dawn is from Australia. She has her own wee channel.
Good stuff.
She was speaking. she was feeding chicken to her chickens. And then she was feeding them oysters one day. And like, do chickens eat that stuff? Like, I've been around farms all my days. Like, I've never seen chickens eat that stuff. But no stranger than folk.
No, well, that's true.
But right, where we're going next? We're on Races Unite now. Apparently, the day they're what I call her, Pretty Patel and Jacob Rees-Mogg had a meeting yesterday with a whole pile of Conservatives.
The Boris Brigade.
The what?
Is that the Boris Brigade?
I don't think they're looking to get Boris back into power. I think they're trying to get Rishi Sunak out before he does any more damage. Especially with the Windsor Agreement. Now, at the last count, who was reporting it? Was a friend of mine, he's TUV, and they had figures, I think it was 86% of unionists were against the Windsor. Is it an agreement or is it a Windsor Accord or something they call it?
Yep, with the border and the RIC.
The border and the RIC. Northern Ireland always had a border. That was an invisible border, but it's simple to work out. Our road lines, our lines in the roads are white. As soon as you get past a certain area, they're yellow. It says miles per hour up here. It says kilometres down there.
Yep.
It used to be the punt down there. Now it's the euro. We have the pound. It's not rocket science. I tried to explain this to an American person on another chat on a video, and I literally says, would you like me to draw it in crayon for you? I says, do you live in America? Yes. You don't live in South America? No. You don't live in Canada? No. You live in North America? Yes. That's it. Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland. Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland. It's not rocket science. They blocked me then.
You've always hit the spot when that happens.
Yeah.
But having a differentiation between the mainland and us, it's just not on. Because it's the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
It's the cost too, Al. Apparently, it's cost Northern Ireland businesses £2 billion a year.
And then people blame Brexit, but it's not Brexit. It's the inability of our government that doesn't want to implement Brexit to actually do it right, and they keep kowtowing to their EU overlords because, in essence, those that are in power and government now never wanted Brexit, and they're still fighting against it. And instead of playing hardball back with the EU, they're just saying they're just rolling over and letting them tickle their belly.
Oh, but then it's like I say, like when we went to the polls to vote, every sort of British person in the chat there, I don't know if you voted Leave or Remain, it doesn't matter.
Leave.
I voted Leave.
Same here.
Everybody says, oh, but Northern Ireland was only 48% Leave and 52% Remain. I says, but we're one nation. 4 countries, one nation. We all voted to Leave. Simple as. So that makes no odds.
That's right.
But you can't get that round the leftist train of thought. No, we voted to stay.
That's right, because you can't reason with them. They're set in their ways. They can't see the facts over their feelings. We feel it should be this way. We feel it should be that way. But they never look at the bloody facts because the facts don't matter to them. It's all about how they feel. It's about what they want, and it's all right. We do it sort of mentality.
I think it was it Matt said or somebody else said. There's a guy on YouTube and he uses the term or the comment all the time. Facts don't care about your feelings.
No, that's right.
You might feel a certain way, but
Doesn't matter.
the actual,
know,
the actual
you,
reality.
you might feel like you're a woman, but if you're a man, you're fucking not. You know, you might feel like Ireland should be united, but it's fucking not. It's just how you feel matters fuck all when it comes to facts.
Well, I talk to guys down south. I have relatives down south and stuff, and they always, it would come up time to time, and it'd be like the United Ireland. I said, do you think the people of Northern Ireland would want to be part of that shit show when you have guys, fucking African guys, walking up the main street in Dublin buck naked? You have a guy that's held in a asylum centre who one guy actually done a facial recognition thing on him and found out that he was from Taliban, and he's doing this at the gates. He's not here to integrate. He's not here to.
Just sure look how many of them the Irish get on Twitter exposing as bloody terrorists. That have come through the system. And then there's the other thing. It's not even would you want to be part of it. You look at the health system. Would you want to be part of that down there?
Nope.
Part of what you've got here? Oh, hell no. As bad and all as it is at times here, it's still better than there. And then look at the new hate crime.
Yeah, hate speech legislation.
It's just, did you ever see the like of it? The whole premise of the law is innocent until proven guilty. With that new hate speech law that they're putting through there, it's you're guilty until proven innocent.
The Irish Gate explained this another thing. It's not even speech. If you sent me something on WhatsApp, which was hilarious.
I would never do that, Rags.
Hilariously funny, showing a certain race of people doing something and just looking like a certain mammal that comes from the jungle. That's hate speech. And even though I didn't ask you to send me that, I still get bothered for it.
Yeah.
That's the way they were explaining it, and it was what do you call that guy? I can never mind his name. He's fuck. He started a party down there years ago. It's Irish Freedom Party, something like that. There, and he was. They were doing a rally in Dublin about it over the weekend. The hate speech laws, and he was sort of basically saying that's what you can be done for. You can go to prison for 5 years for sending me something that was funny.
Yeah.
That what we would find is funny because we think alike a lot. And stuff that I would send to Jack there and all. And it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Nope. Can't do that. It's hate crime.
That's right. Imagine if something happened and you were in a coma for a couple of weeks, and then the next thing you woke up and the police were at your bed saying, "We found this in your phone, your mate sent it to you," and we're like, "Oh fuck," And it's just like, this is why I miss the banter from the police. It's like one of the favorite things that ever happened to me. I was off and leave, and we weren't away on holiday or anywhere. We just take a few days here and there because Erin was only wee at the time, and we took a day up to Portrush, and my team happened to be on, and we were coming down the M2, and the phone rang, and I hit the button on the steering wheel, and it was like one of my colleagues from work going, "What about you, McVeigh, a horrible wee mong bastard,"
Mm-hmm.
And I just burst out laughing, and he's like, "You're not on your own, are you?" And I says, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Oh, Melanie." He just started laughing. But this is the way you talk to each other, Try doing that now.
I had a video. It was the mate sent it to me. Apparently, this that lowlife had stole a mobility scooter, and he was going across, I think they call it the Freedom Bridge, in Londonderry. There's like a walk bridge. You can walk across it, but you can't get a car across it. So he took the mobility scooter, and he was being chased by the police, and he abandoned it at the other side of the bridge. So the police recovered this thing, but they couldn't get it into the car, and they couldn't get it into the back of a Land Rover or anything. So the policeman, he decided he was going to ride it back to the station so they could give it back to the disabled person that it belonged to. But they made a video. And it was like, and I'm rolling, and I'm rolling. And they're driving along beside him in the car, filming and playing this sort of black rap music, and I'm rolling.
Yeah.
But they're having a good, they were having a laugh. Apparently they were dragged up for that,
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. The amount of, well, you can't get away with hardly anything these days now. A bit of banter, a bit of crack. I was all right back in the day because I knew who the team was and you could have said anything. But some of the young ones coming through now, they could overhear something the next thing. You'll be called it to the boss, and that'll be it, And it's
There's,
that's right here. The government hates.
There's the WhatsApp groups. I know a couple of police guys had a WhatsApp group, and all of them got the sack for misconduct, because I think it was like a young female officer, police officer, come in, and you know the way guys talk. Fuck, you see her? Hey, oh, she's great. Oh, fuck, I would do this, I would do that. And it's banter between men.
No.
They're not going to actually do anything. It's not as if they're going to nail her to a table and freaking ravage her. All of them got the sack.
Yep. And and I tell you what, see the ones that presided over that and got them the sack were exactly the bloody same themselves.
Yes, no doubt. I have no doubt they were.
So, like, I know of a senior officer who got caught drink driving and chinned the bloody officer that caught him and ran off. And it was all covered up. There was a big payout,
Yeah. Well, I will not say anything about that because my cousin, another officer here, he got me off or something like that. I had taken a pint in Joey's bar one night, and then thought, I'm going to head to the off license before I go home here and get myself some beers, put them in the rucksack and head off home to the missus and the Wayne. And as soon as I walked out of the off license, who was standing? Please, can you take a helmet off, please? Could you blow into this? I says, yeah, I'll blow into it now, but I've only had a pint. Right, okay. So it blew red. I says, can I have my second test? And there's 20 or 30 minutes. So, and then I was sitting chatting to him, and I says, there's big R on the night. And she went, no, I was naming the cousin. And she went, how do you know him? I says, he's my cousin. She ripped up the paperwork and says, put that bike in the freaking off license and come back and get it in the morning. Said, go away. So I got away with that. Probably shouldn't have, but
no, things were different back then.
Here, you see, when the trouble was up, we could leave work on a Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock and go on the piss in the Salmon Leap in Coleraine and drive home that evening at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night with a fucking boot full of beer, and you would have never been stopped because the police were too busy
doing the same.
Or doing the same, or actually fighting crime, or actually.
Right. You know, it's
They,
just
they,
a
they had more things to work. They had more things to worry about, like looking under their cars before they went to work. You know,
damn right. Or like I always said that I was the most unfortunate bugger because while I always check under my car, I'd probably get shot when I was doing it.
Huh.
Because they always saw me checking me under my car. But I thought, well, we're not going to blow him up, so we'll wait until he's on the ground looking under the car, and then we'll shoot him.
Hey, the cousin there, I had three cousins in the police, four cousins actually. One wasn't actually on the beat. He was an armourer in the police army. He was Royal Marine before that, and then he went into the police. But the other ones, they at least they changed the car every 6 months. You know, or one of them actually literally had three cars.
Yeah.
He never took the same route to work on any given day. You know, and he still does it. Uh,
That's it. They always told you to think like a terrorist.
yeah,
If you were going to be a terrorist, where would you try to take yourself out? But at the end of the day, the best advice I was given to was they always know where you start out from and where you're going to end off at.
yeah,
So if, no matter what route you take, well, they're not going to try to take you out. You're at the police station probably, so they'll try to do it when you're leaving or you're coming home.
yeah.
So
I'd love to get C on here tonight with you, because he's active police, and some of the shit that he could tell you is like unbelievable. I was like,
like I remember one night we were going to a call and it was in Castlewellan, and there was quite a threat on at the time, and they were telling us to go slow. We were the main response car, and they were thinking this might be a come on. We're checking, just go slow, and they were bringing in cars from different areas to satellite, and then it went on for about good 20 minutes or so, and then they said, right, go ahead. So we're just turning down, and it was India, sort of like a field down into a sharp left turn. And just as we were doing it, they were like, Charlie Whiskey 70, abort, 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 get out. I said, come on, there's a culvert. And we were like, I looked at the driver and he looked at me. I was like, fuck, it's a bit late now, isn't it? But thankfully, nothing went boom, So, but it just shows you things like that. It can make the old sphincter start going like that a wee bit.
the thing is, you always had the bearded wonder there, and he says we haven't gone away, you know,
And nor have they.
and they haven't gone away. And the fact is that the police at the minute here, especially over towards the city and stuff, I like to call it Stroke City, Londonderry. The mate was telling me, he says they had drove a couple of Land Rovers and a police car to go and investigate something, and it just so happened it was obviously a acetylene bottle that a guy had put in a drain underneath the road, and it was packed with stuff, and two leads going to it. And it just so happened the farmer had driven over the leads and pulled the leads out of it. And then the farmer had seen this thing and discovered it and then reported it to the police. They were waiting for them boys.
Yeah.
It's like the Cross Community Leisures Youth Club on the Friday evening. And next minute this car goes. It didn't go off properly. It went and it fizzled up, and then the car just started to burn. But they're quite willing to put children's lives.
Of course they are.
I'd say that it's cross community. There's wee Catholic children, Protestant children, doesn't matter.
So like,
At this hall somewhere.
I remember when you probably remember, well, you would remember it too, the same era, the Blue Lamp Youth League, with the discos and stuff.
Yes.
The police did the discos. And I played whenever I was younger, I was, well, all into all my sports, into football and whatnot.
Same as myself.
And probably didn't say in the last one was I actually played for Northern Ireland Schoolboys, I was signed for Sunderland for a year, but all that aside, played for Glentoran, and but the I played for Bestbrook, and away again. Still there.
I'm still here.
Aye.
It must be your end. It must be your end, though, because I'm still here.
Aye. No, I just went black there, but I played for Bestbrook from like under, what was it, 13 to under 15, and they called it Brookville sometimes, and one of the managers was Alan Black. He was the only survivor of the King's Mills massacre. But
you keep going now, because I need a whiz, man. Just keep going.
And one of the leagues we were involved in was a cross-community league. Went all over our section of Northern Ireland, even as far as Lurgan and the like, South Armagh, County Down, and every Saturday when the normal league wasn't on, we went to play all these different matches, and we were ferried about by the police community minibus, and they were basically, God love them, they were taking their lives in their hands because you knew where they were going to play, and it was always the police taking you about. And I'll never forget it. One of the guys was called Frank Murphy, and lovely man, and he was doing, like, must have been a year or two, I knew him, and one day he was doing something similar with one of the local schools. He had just left a load of kids off at the school, and on the way out, he hadn't even left the school. He got out the school gates. They were waiting for him and riddled him, killed instantly. And such a lovely man he was, and that was in the 80s, And it just makes you think there's a man who was doing good for his community. He was helping out the local kids from both sides of the community, and look what happened to him. It was. I remember I was a captain of the team, and I wrote a wee letter to his widow and all, saying how lovely a man he was and what all the good things he did for us. But you look back in those times and you think, such a bloody waste.
Yeah.
I say Alan Black was one of the managers of the team, and you know what he's been through, and like I remember him a few times, lifting up the top, and you just see all the holes in him. Like he was shot, like, what was it, 18 times, and somehow he friggin' survived,
Well, I think your man there that was, what was he doing? He was shot this year. Is that
Caldwell, John Caldwell.
Caldwell.
He was doing the football training.
He was doing the football for kids or something, and they just drove up and shot him in front of the kids.
That's right. They don't care.
Tic Tac. She has fed. She's nurtured. She's loved. She's the most pamperedest bitch on the planet. The only thing that she isn't or doesn't get is fine lingerie. And she still wins.
Well, even the fine lingerie wears off after a while.
The size of Susie, it'll be like £5 a sheet and a £1 bag, like. But right. So right on, we're going to close this up. This has been fascinating. I'd like everybody in the chat to put a big massive Al in the chat, because every time he comes on, he's fascinating, and he's also hilarious. I'm going to go and have a beer and watch a movie, and hopefully we'll get you back on very, very soon. I think I have the Woodlander and then Matt. The Woodlander next week and Matt the following week, and we all know how funny he is.
Oh, aye.
Even in the standalone videos, My eyes start watering after about 30 seconds, and I can't freaking stop.
Oh, I'm the same, you know. My wife said to me the night, you know, just dial it down a wee bit and just don't be too ranty.
What was it? The roller lesbian, black roller lesbians or something, transgender roller lesbians. And you think, where the fuck does he come up with this stuff? Like,
You know, he's got a twisted mind, just like us, but
uh,
he maybe lets it out a wee bit more in public than we do. But like,
I've learned on YouTube, I've learned to rein it in because I've had 3 strikes over the last 2 years.
I sort of sometimes rein it in a bit too. It's not like me. I do like to speak my mind, but then it's like that there.
Uh,
Cheers.
uh,
I will. I
Al's is always straight. There's
oh
no
I
mixers or not even an ice cube in that.
that's it. But you sometimes you have to when you're on the platform and you know the rules, you have to play within them, you know,
Yeah.
in order to stay on.
Well,
That's
it's like everybody else,
life.
and they're basically there's Paz and all of the day doing videos and stuff, and you literally have to speak in code.
Yeah,
Everybody knows what you're talking about, but you literally have to speak in code just to keep your channel.
that's right. Because
We all
the thing
know.
is, as you know, you can be doing all right, and then you get 3 strikes from a year ago.
Mhm.
It's just uh,
But then Matt's still getting 3.5, 400, maybe 450, 500 people in certain chats.
that's
Depends when
right.
he goes live and stuff. Um, but before that, there you literally had the likes of Mark Collette and this, that, and the other on, and they were getting 3,000 people in the live stream. You had that American guy. He used to be a communist, sort of left wing boy, and now he's jumped far to the right. Can't make his name. Um, he was literally, you seen his chat and the donations to the chat, and he offered to pay for AOC's mother's house repairs with the funds that he was getting in the chat. It was literally thousands and thousands of pounds, and now he's deplatformed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And God knows we never covered it tonight, but you'll probably do it for the next couple of weeks with the other two. You know, like the new CEO of Twitter. Where the fuck's that going to go now?
oh yeah. Now I watched the debate with her and him, and he wasn't impressed with her. So why did he employ her? You know, I would say because Elon Musk isn't our guy.
No,
No, he's just another one. But
he's a
anyway,
globalist that likes free speech, but apart from that, I think he's a wee bit nefarious in other ways. But
apparently he's stamping out on the AI stuff. He's warning about AI.
yeah,
But he's one of the guys years ago that was pushing for AI.
that's right. Well, I think it's gone that far now that a lot of the people that were the pioneers of it are realizing it could be bloody dangerous.
Uh, there's things we all watched films years ago, and it was about conspiracy theories and how the CIA worked and FBI worked and stuff. And in the 50s, if you signed a book out of a library in America, they knew who signed that book out and where it was signed out at and what book it was, like Catcher in the Rye or whatever. And everybody said, "Oh, it's conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory." 30 years later, it comes out that they were actually doing that.
No, just normal. No,
The
I remember.
brother, the brother was intelligence, military intelligence in the RAF. Contradiction in terms, I know, but they have bases 6 stories down under Braggs Norton that are the size of a small village
Yeah,
with these massive computers, and they're watching everything you do, every dick pic you send, every WhatsApp you. Well, not WhatsApp because that's why they're trying to ban WhatsApp.
because it's encrypted
It's encrypted on both ends.
now.
For now. Um, but they were doing that 40, 50 years ago. So,
Like I know a guy that spoke to me, and he was in the American military in the 80s, the 90s. And they're saying about all these things now and what they can do and what they can't do. He says, don't believe a word of it. He said, in the end that I was in, even from the basic satellites they had then,
Yes.
from space, we could read the number plate of your car.
Yeah.
And God only knows what they can do now.
It's like, what do you call them old films with Harrison? What do you call him? Harrison.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Aye.
And he plays the part of Jack. He's CIA or something.
Clear and present danger.
Clear and present danger. That was the IRA one. Remember the one?
The other one, yeah.
It was the English actor that played the Irish terrorist.
I can't remember the name of it.
He was in Lord of the Rings and stuff. And they spot them in the desert, and the man's going, this camp is empty. Tuesday. Wednesday. Look at the footprints. And then next minute, the wee bookman, the bookshop owner, and he looks up, and the man spots him. And enhance, nailed him. You know, that's where they are, sending the freaking boys in black. You know. So, and how old's that movie?
I know.
Must be.
Oh, yeah, it's the 80s, isn't it? Or late 80s, early 90s.
Early 90s, probably.
Aye. Sure, Harrison Ford, he's, well, in his twilight years.
Fucking Robert De Niro's 79 and had another kid.
Well, he's fucking do things better than me. So he can, you know, either that or he's got a better oxygen fucking flow. You know?
Tom Clancy, great writer. Yes, Tom Clancy.
Yep. That's right.
Right, folks, we're going to shut this one down. I'd like to thank Al for coming. I want to get Al back on again. Maybe make it a regular thing every 6 weeks or so. We'll get him on and we'll do the same old thing. We'll just talk waffle.
Politics.
Facts don't care about your feelings, folks.
That's right.
How do I do this again? I've forgotten how to do this. No, I'm hitting the wrong button. Right, so next week is Woodlander. The following week is Matt the Bitneck. And I have no idea who I have on. I was trying to get Michelle O'Neill from Irish Freedom Party on. And every time she says she's free, I have somebody else but to come on. So, but, and where are we at here? Good night. God bless, or in my case, Odin bless.
Cheers.